Yo, what's going on, guys? Sportsmac, and I'm back with another schedule preview, this time of the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, this is a very interesting team. We need to take a step back. Back in 2016, Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley, they defeat Ohio State, nearly win the Rose Bowl. It's the rise of Penn State football once again. 2017, they fall off a little bit. They still have Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley, but they still make a New Year's Six Bowl, and this time they beat Washington, I believe, in the Fiesta Bowl. I'm pretty sure that they did defeat Washington in the Fiesta Bowl. So then all of a sudden Saquon Barkley leaves. They dip a little bit. They're still pretty good. They make I'm trying to remember which bowl they made. All I know is that they lost to Kentucky. So they were a top 15 team. They've been a top 15 team the past 3 years. But now Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley, the people that got them there, are no longer there. So can they still be a top 15, top 10 team without them? And can they find their replacements? And will they still be as good as they have been the past couple of years? Let's find out. So Penn State starts off the year against Idaho. I don't really think I have to spend much time here. I think Penn State is definitely going to get the win over Idaho. It's a good tune-up game to start the year for Penn State, so I think everybody's in agreement that Penn State is going to get the win. So they face Buffalo, so just kind of another tune-up game. They start off with two pretty cupcake games before they get to the real meat of their schedule, and I think they're going to win both pretty handily. So Penn State starts off the year 2-0. So they're at home against Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh was actually in the ACC Championship last year. They were actually pretty good. They went like 8-5, I believe. They were undefeated in conference until the ACC Championship game happened. So in conference, Pittsburgh was incredible. Outside of conference, they were absolutely terrible. So they were a really weird team last year. I think they're going to be decent. They're going to be around 6-6, 7-5. They're going to be a decent team this year. Well, I think they'll be able to be on the level and potentially beat a team as good as Penn State. I just don't see it. I think they have the potential to beat Penn State. I think this is a losable game for Penn State. But in the end, I don't think Pittsburgh has the talent and the depth to quite get over the edge, especially since this is a home game for Penn State. So I'm going to give Penn State their third win in a row. So coming off of a bye, they face Maryland. They could have trouble with the Maryland offense. Maryland does have a great offense, but I think they're off a bye. They're going to come in with a good game plan. They're going to execute it. And I think that Penn State's offense should run wild against a pretty mediocre at best Maryland defense. So I think that Penn State, coming off a bye, is going to come in here with a good game plan. They're going to execute it, and I think that they're going to beat Maryland. So they're at home against Purdue. Purdue, I feel like, was pretty overrated last year. Everybody thought they were better than they actually were, just because that blowout win over Ohio State. And they were an okay team last year. I feel like they're kind of like a Pittsburgh. They're going to be like 6-6, 7-5 this year. Not going to be anything truly special. But I gave them the win over Pittsburgh, and I'm going to give them the win over a team like Purdue. I think Penn State just has more depth and more stars. I just don't see a team like Purdue finding a way to beat them, especially since Penn State is at home. So Penn State starts off the year 5-0. So after starting off the year 5-0, I'm going to give them their first loss on the road against Iowa. So who do I think is better, Iowa or Penn State? They're kind of very similar teams. They're both good teams, not anything too special, but they're both good, solid teams, so they're pretty even. And I think Iowa's going to need a win more than Penn State at this point, and Penn State's going to be on the road, and I think that's just enough to give Iowa the win here. This is kind of a 50-50 football game. It could really go either way, but I think Iowa's going to win a close, kind of low-scoring physical football game, handing Penn State their first loss of the year. So Penn State returns home against Michigan. Here's where I think this is going to be their biggest win of the season. Michigan will be coming off of what I think will be a loss against Notre Dame, so I'm not sure how Michigan's going to respond. They don't have a good track record with responding off of losses. Look at last year. They lose to Ohio State, and then they get blown out by Florida in the Peach Bowl. They're not very good coming off of losses. They're not very good at responding. And I think it's going to be a similar situation here for Penn State. So if you're asking me who I think is better, Penn State or Michigan, I think Michigan's clearly the better team. But I think the circumstances is enough for me to feel comfortable giving Penn State the win here. And not to mention, Michigan will be on the road for this game as well. So I'm giving Penn State the win. So they go from one Michigan team to the other as they are now on the road against Michigan State. I feel like this is going to be another kind of lower physical football game, a low scoring, close physical football game. It's going to come down to who can make the big play when they need to, and I think Penn State has more clutch players and just more stars than Michigan State, and I think that's going to give them the slight edge here on the road against Michigan State. I think this is going to be a close game. I'm not a very big believer in Michigan State. I was never really a believer in them, even when they were at their peak days, when they made it into the college football playoff. They've never really been a team that can hang with the elite teams and even the above-average teams too much. So that's why I'm going to give Penn State the win here. I think they have just enough big players and big stars to sneak away with the win against Michigan State. So coming off of a bye, they are on the road against Minnesota. They're coming off of a bye. Minnesota's just an average team. I mean, their ceiling is probably 8-4. They're going to struggle to make a bowl game this year. They're just going to be an average team. Penn State should run through them, so I don't think we have to spend too much time on that. So they return home against Indiana, another team kind of similar to Minnesota. They're going to struggle to make a bowl game. Their ceiling as a program is probably something like 8-4. It's not anything too crazy. So that's why I'm going to give Penn State the win. I think they're just a much more complete and better team than teams like Minnesota and Indiana. So they are on the road now against the Ohio State Buckeyes in what should be the most difficult game of the year for them, in my opinion. Ohio State, I think, will be a top 10 team this year. Do I think they're a college football playoff type team? I'm not sure. They have the talent to be, but I'm not sure if their new coach Ryan Day can do it quite as well as Urban Meyer did it there. And I think they're going to miss Urban Meyer this year, so I'm not sure if I want to invest too much in Ohio State yet. But I know enough about Ohio State to feel extremely comfortable giving Penn State the loss against them. Ohio State has more stars, better players. Ohio State right now is just the superior team and program to Penn State. That's not a big knock on Penn State. I mean, Ohio State's a pretty good team. I mean, I have them in contention for a Big Ten championship. I don't have them winning it. I'm pretty sure I have Michigan winning it. And I have Ohio State going undefeated until they face Michigan. So I have Ohio State at 11-0 before that Michigan game. And they could easily go 12-0, win the Big Ten, make it to the playoffs, and then who knows what can happen there. So Ohio State is a very solid team, a very good team, and I'm going to give them the win over Penn State, So Penn State now faces Rutgers. I don't think I'd spend much time on this game. I don't get why. This is Penn State's biggest rival. They run through them. It's no contest. They're going to run through Rutgers. I don't really think I have to spend much time on this game. Rutgers is one of the most weak Power 5 teams in college football, arguably the worst. So Penn State, I think, gets the easy win to close off the year. So in the end, I have Penn State as a 10-2 team, which I think is actually a pretty good year for them, considering they have lost both Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley. They lost Saquon Barkley a couple years ago, but they did lose Trace McSorley this year, so I think they recover quite well. I think they're going to be a top 20 team. Saying that they're going to be a top 15 may be a little bit of a stretch. I think they're around the 15 mark. They're probably some way in like 14 through 17 on teams, which is pretty decent for them, considering they've lost all their big stars who got them to the top. They've recovered well, and considering they have one of the easiest Power 5 schedules does help too, and I think they're going to land themselves in something like an Outback Bowl, probably not a New Year's Six Bowl. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, but they'll be in a decent bowl game. They'll be in an Outback Bowl or something like that, so I think it'll be a pretty successful year for them, considering all they have lost over the past couple years and considering the kind of low expectations for this program heading into 2019. So do I think Penn State will get back to the levels they were of Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley? I'm not sure. I think it'll take them a little while. Will they ever be a national title team? I don't know. Maybe. They have the potential to. This team, not even close. I wouldn't even say they're even going to come close to a top 10 team. I think they're just a good, solid top 15 program, top 20 program, and I think that's what they'll be for a couple years before they get their next Saquon Barkley or their next Trace McSorley. But I think for Penn State fans, they would gladly accept being a good, solid team every year. Being in the same division with Ohio State and Michigan is very tough. I think the division with Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State is extremely overpowered compared to the other division of the Big Ten. So I think they should bring like maybe an Ohio State or a Penn State over there to kind of balance them out. But just whenever you're in the same division as Ohio State and Michigan, it's really hard to be national title contenders. So will they ever get back to that level? I think so. Will it be quickly? I'm not so sure. But again, I think they'll be a top 20, maybe top 15 program for a couple years before they can either get their next star and rise back up, or their program can tank and rise back down. I'd bet more on them getting their next star and rising up, but you never know what can happen in football. Look at Florida back in 2010, whenever Urban Meyer left and their program tanked. Is Penn State the next program to do that? Maybe. You never know what can happen in football. I wouldn't bet my money on it. I think they're going to be a solid to good program for the next couple years, and then they might have a couple years at the top. But will they ever win a national title is the question. Penn State fans are starting to get a little bit impatient, and I hate to inform you, a national title won't be coming probably for the next 5 years. That's just how it is. I think you guys are a good team, not a great team. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And Penn State fans, I would love to carry on conversations with you down in the comments below, as long as you guys are somewhat polite. I mean, I'm not going to remove a comment, but I would like to carry on conversations with you. Just remember, we all have differing opinions on a team. Nobody's going to have the exact same opinion as I do or as you do. So that's just the way college football goes, and that's the beauty of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have an amazing day, and peace.